So again, we have a decision maker, and the decision maker has to choose the principles. And so Rawls thought that everyone who's behind the veil of ignorance would choose his two principles, the ones I just showed you on the previous slide, and they would choose Rawls's two principles because they produced the highest minimum outcome. Even for the people that are worse off, end up in the worst position in life, which doesn't necessarily have to be just exactly this one, but of our four, unhealthy and poor is, well, at least in most of our hypothetical societies, actually not this one here, but in most of them, this is the worst position that someone could end up in. But even if you end up in this position and you've adopted Rawls's two principles, you're not going to do that badly. If you adopt utilitarian principles, and so the idea here is that these principles will create a society that has the maximum amount of happiness. So let's say there are a lot of people who end up here, and not too many people, but some that end up here. So overall, this society or a state set up on these principles is going to have the greatest amount of happiness. I guess a lot of people here and also here, not too many people here. So overall, people are happiest in this state, but Rawls still thought that people wouldn't choose to adopt principles that gave rise to a state like this one. And then here are just some other examples. Appia refers to this type of state on page 255, or these types of principles. We can imagine that the covenant that Hobbes talks about gives rise to a state where no one's really all that happy. If you're poor in this state, you're going to be really unhappy. So it makes sense to think that no one would adopt the principles that are part of Hobbes' covenant. But in any case, the long and short of it is that, and Appia says a lot more about this, that this kind of reasoning process, or going through this kind of reasoning process from behind the veil of ignorance, where you don't know where you're going to end up, Rawls at least thought, and a lot of people have agreed with him, that most people would choose to set up a society based upon his two principles. And so that's his way of justifying these two principles as being the ones upon which a just state is established.